Hey everybody, James here from Q-SYS, and I'd like to introduce you to Q-SYS Designer Software version 10.3. Well, actually we're going to talk about 10.2 and 10.3 because in 10.3 there's some new hardware that's supported, but in 10.2 there's a lot of new software features which we're yet to talk about, including improvements to the user interface, some changes to the workflow for programmers, and also a very exciting new feature which lets you bring Zoom UC control directly onto Q-SYS touch panels. So, what's new? Now, let's start with the new hardware from 10.3, including the new MPA-Q Series amplifiers. Now, you're probably already familiar with the SPA-Q Series, and if that's a small power amplifier, then guess what? This is a medium power amplifier that sits in between the SPA-Q and the CX-Q series. Now there's already the MPA series, which is an analog amplifier, but this of course is a native Q-SYS peripheral. Now you can see the specs on screen here, but the thing I really want to focus on is the new and improved redundancy features. Now, like the larger QIO units and the CX-Q series amplifiers, the new MPA-Q does support redundant audio using LAN A and LAN B. Now, of course, if you had a power outage, the amplifier is still going to turn off and you're still going to have an audio dropout. Now, it might be that the power drops out just for a second, the amplifier turns off, then the power comes back and the amplifier comes back up. But what normally happens there is the brain of the amplifier takes a little bit longer to boot than the actual amplifier part of the amplifier. So a neat new feature with the MPA-Q is that you can power the brain of it using PoE from your network. So think about a situation where the amplifier loses power, the network doesn't, the actual amplifier part will turn off, but the brain will keep going via PoE, and then when power comes back, the amplifier comes back really fast and your audio dropouts are minimized in that kind of situation. Now, one last thing on the MPA-Q is standalone mode. This is similar to CX-Q, where if it loses connection to the core, the analog inputs on the back get routed directly to the amplifier outputs, kind of like a fail-safe. But the MPA goes one step further because it has a little switch on the back where you can move it between Q-SYS mode and fully analog mode, which means you can use it outside of a Q-SYS system if the need arises. Now, there's another new bit of hardware for 10.3, which is the server core X50R. And if you thought that the X20R was really powerful, then you should have a look at the X50R because it's in a totally different league. Now, the most powerful core previously supported up to 512 channels of networked audio in and out. And the X50, it's possible we got a little bit carried away because it supports 4,096 inputs and 4,096 outputs via the network. Now this is possible because on the back, instead of your normal 1 gigabit ports, it's got 4 10 gigabit SFP ports, and that ships with 2 10 gigabit modules and 2 1 gigabit modules. Now you can change these for any kind of standard modules, but these basically make up your LAN A and B and C and D. The general processing power is around 3 times what you'll get on a Core X20 and around 50 times what you'll find on a base level Core Nano, hence the name. The R in the name stands for the redundant hot swappable power supplies that it has, and all of this makes it the most powerful audio, video and control processor in the world. And we can't wait to see what you're going to do with it. Now, let's talk about the software improvements from 10.2 because there's some really nice workflow enhancements that help you with day-to-day programming and management, but also Q-SYS Connect, which is a bit of a game changer for Zoom Room systems. So let's talk about some of these user interface improvements. The first one actually is just a small update to Peripheral Manager. Now this is Peripheral Manager as we've known it so far, the web page that's running on every Q-SYS peripheral. Actually the UI is kind of different to Core Manager, so a small change we've made is that in the new Peripheral Manager, you can see it really feels like a sort of more lightweight version of Core Manager. Same kind of user interface, same places for ID buttons, edit buttons, things like that. So just a bit of a smoother experience moving between Core Manager and Peripheral Manager. And also this sets us up for more improvements and additions to Peripheral Manager later on. Next, we've got the new Schematic Elements UI, which is actually going to speed things up a great deal, especially for those of you working with lots of different components, including user components and plugins. Now, here is the Schematic Elements section from 10.1 that we've been familiar with for quite some time. And here it is inside 10.2 and of course 10.3 as well. Now firstly, you're going to see right away that it's much more easy to kind of just see what you want to look at. If I just want to see my user components or just my plugins, I can just click here at the top. I don't have to scroll around quite so much. So that's just a nice speed thing. But also, for example, with plugins, as soon as I press that, I then can choose a category right underneath. So if I want to see my microphone plugins, I can say plugins, microphone, and there they are. Or I could say plugins, microphone, turn that off, turn on network instead, or maybe components, scripting. Right, it's just really easy to get around. Of course, you can still do things the old way. So I can still go to, for example, the plugins section and find things in the normal way. That's not a problem. The other thing here that's much more improved is search. Let me show you a quick example. If I go back to 10.1 here, I've got some user components and I've put them into folders. I've put some of my lighting user components into the lighting folder, okay, including the color blendinator, which is a name I'm particularly proud of. Now, if I just search for lighting, actually, I only get the one that has light in the name, right? So it looks like I've only got one thing in my lighting folder, and I'd have to be like, I swear I had more things in the lighting folder. Now, in 10.2, if I search for light, it actually shows me the folder names as well. So in older versions of Q-SYS, search was really just filtering on the name of the component itself. Now search is looking at all of the folder hierarchy. For example, if I look for, I don't know, mixer, you can see it's searching the mixers folder, it's showing you things with mixer in the name and the subfolders of mixer as well. Okay, so just really handy, going to definitely speed things up when we're looking for a particular component here. Now, while we're talking about components and quality of life improvements, there's one that's been made to script access. So in the past, if you dragged in a component, it has the little gray text at the top there. If you didn't know, that is its code name. Okay, now by default, all components cannot be accessed by scripts using the code name. But you can come in here and say, actually, I do want my scripts to have access to that. Or I can say all or external, and that also opens the components up for external third-party control. So what I do, as someone who does a lot of Lua scripting and a bit of block controller in Q-SYS, is quite often I will be setting these to script so that later on I can use a text controller to actually control these components without having to wire anything up. It's really handy, for example, when you're actually running a design and then while the system is running, you want to make changes, you know that you've got script access and the script you already dropped in, you can edit while the system is running, which is very cool. But it's kind of annoying when you've got a big design, you don't necessarily know what you're going to need script access for. And then you find, oh, I didn't turn script access on that component. I've got to disconnect. I've got to turn script access on. I've got to redeploy. That might take a few minutes. It's just a bit slow. So now there's a new preference. So for all of you scripting programmers out there, you can go File, Preferences, and here you're going to see Default Component Script Access. And personally, I would set that to Script. All right, so now any component I drag in, doesn't actually matter what it is, it's already got script access turned on. I still might want to come here and change the name, but I don't have to actually turn script access on to use a text controller to talk to this. And if you're thinking, I didn't really know what code names were, that sounds pretty cool. How can you script a whole component? Then make sure you sign up for Control and UCI Intermediate or Advanced, where you'll learn how to make the best use out of all of these things.
And finally, we have Q-SYS Connect for Zoom Rooms. Now, Q-SYS Connect is all about tying in with UC platforms for control. And with Zoom specifically, Q-SYS Connect allows us to use our Q-SYS TSC-Series touch panels as a display for a Windows-based Zoom Rooms PC. Now, this is made possible because Q-SYS Connect tells the PC that it has a virtual display connected. We're then streaming the video from the PC to our touch panel using the Q-SYS MediaCast protocol, and the touch coordinates from that touch panel are sent back to the PC as touch coordinates. So with that, you can send it to your touchscreen without having to add any extra hardware or without having to have a USB cable or something similar connecting that third-party touch panel to your Zoom Rooms PC. But it also means that with divisible rooms, we can route that MediaCast through a MediaCast router to change which touchscreens are linked to which PCs dynamically. Okay, so let me show you how to actually use Q-SYS Connect for Zoom rooms inside Q-SYS Designer, because it's really easy, but also very scalable and flexible, which is, kind of our whole vibe. So I'm going to go to the inventory and I'm going to add under control a TSC-Series panel. Now this has to be a TSC-70 or a TSC-101 to use this feature. Let's go ahead and add a TSC-101, okay, the 10-inch model, and Q-SYS Connect for Windows-based PCs. All right. Now, Q-SYS Connect is actually going to appear on the network as a Q-SYS peripheral. It's using the same Q-SYS discovery protocol. If I was to go into configurator, I would see that show up here if I had the software installed on a Windows PC and it's on the network. All right. Now, I'm going to come over to the properties and I'm going to change the room type to a Zoom room. If you're using it with Teams rooms, it works kind of like the old Q-SYS control for MTR application. But with Zoom rooms, we can get this component, the virtual UC controller. Now, when I drag this in, it's a MediaCast source coming into my system, just like a camera. It's got this MediaCast output pin on there, all right? Now, I'm going to grab my touch panel and I'm going to drop that in. Now, the really cool thing about this is rather than me having to make a UCI and put it on the touch panel, I can change the touch panel to MediaCast display yes. And now it has a MediaCast input pin. And just like that, just by me wiring it up like that and deploying the design with the correct name, obviously, on here, like this might be called, Zoom PC 1 or whatever, you set that up in the on the PC itself. It's going to pair with the Q-SYS Connect app. It's obviously going to pair with the touch panel. And just like that, I'm going to have my touch panel be showing up as a display for my Zoom PC. Job done. Easy peasy. Also, if you were to unplug your touch panel from the network, the Zoom PC will actually see that as a display disconnection. So everything will work just like it's connected with a sort of USB-C cable, like it's a straightforward display, but it's actually all kind of virtualized through the network. So that's that, right? Dead easy. Now, the cool thing is, because this is MediaCast, I do get previews here. So this is just like a camera preview. I could put this anywhere. I could actually just leave it here in Designer so I can see that things are working, right? I could put it, for example, under there. That's no problem. Same thing on the touchscreen. Okay, you've actually got here a preview, same kind of thing. But the cool thing is we can kind of scale this up. So let's say that I actually have a two-way divisible room, and oh look, what a bit of luck, I actually have some components down here that will help me demonstrate this. So I've got a two-way divisible room with one wall. I'm representing that here with this room combiner, and I can open and close the wall. And using this flip-flop, I've then got two control pins. I've got one for the rooms combined, one for they're not combined. Now, I might have in this situation a Zoom PC in room 1 and a Zoom PC in room 2. So I'm going to go ahead and add another touchscreen and another Q-SYS Connect. All right, let's just set those up in the same way, drop them in just like this, okay? Actually, I'll put my wall between them. That'll be kind of fun. There we go. And I will get my touchscreen here and drop that in, and same deal. I'm going to say that it is a MediaCast display. Now, if this wasn't a divisible room, all right, nothing stopping us just having here two fully independent PCs and touch panels just like that. That's totally fine, okay? But being that it is a divisible room, I'm going to use a MediaCast router, okay? And I'm going to say here I've got a 2-in, 2-out MediaCast router, and I can just wire it up like this. Now, this of course means the video is switchable between the two touchscreens. Also, as you can imagine, when you do that, the touch commands on the touchscreens, we're routing it in the opposite direction as well. So we don't have to think about routing touch and video. It's all just done through this router here. And then what I might do is when the room is separate, I've got 1-to-1 and 2-to-2. When the rooms are combined, I'm going to say 1-to-1 and 1-to-2. One could kind of take over the whole thing, maybe. I mean, it might work in a different way for you, but that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to say, right, output 2, input 1 select, input 2 select. I'm going to select input 1 when the room's combined,
and I'm going to select 2 when the room is separate, okay? And I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll just put here the source for 1 and 2. I'll just drop these over there so you can see this happening. Now, of course, these previews, they're going to work as well, as you'd expect. So we can just go ahead and emulate this now. Okay, and now we can see when the wall is open like this, they're both showing PC1. When the wall is separate, 1 is showing 1, 2 is showing 2. And of course, this can scale up and up. I believe that the Q-SYS Connect application on the PC actually presents up to 16 different display and touch setups to the PC. So you could actually have something mad like a 16-way divisible room, but of course it might not be a divisible room. It might be something far simpler than that, where you've actually just got a big room where you want to have multiple screens in the same room. And that could look as simple as this, right? We've just got a single Zoom PC, but I just want to present that to more than one touchscreen. Maybe one at the front of the table and one at the back of the table. And maybe that's a divisible room as well, right? So you could have a 3-way divisible room, give you 6 touch panels. I'll let you extrapolate how big you want this system to be, but hopefully you can see here, Q-SYS Connect, very, very cool, very easy to set up, and I'm sure you'll come up with lots of other wonderful ways of using it. So that's it for Designer 10.3 and for 10.2. Now, as ever, make sure you go to the Q-SYS help file to see all of the other new features and the resolved issues, and also go to library.qsys.com where you'll always find the latest Q-SYS plugins. That's it from me, thanks, and I'll see you next time.